A 32-year-old woman from Mexico who is wanted for murder was arrested in Wisconsin Thursday for illegally re-entering the U.S. after being previously removed. According to the criminal complaint, Alejandra Sanchez Cacaja is a suspect in a homicide that happened last year in Mexico. FBI personnel in Mexico confirmed she's a wanted fugitive. She was living in southern Wisconsin. The complaint also said that Sanchez had previously been removed from the U.S. and did not have permission to return. Following her arrest, Sanchez made her initial appearance in federal court before being taken into ICE custody to be returned to Mexico.